August Biniaz with Real Estate Investing Demystified. Again, we're at the Best Ever Conference, Salt Lake City. We're with our good friend Marcin Rose. Marcin, you're creating funds, you're raising money, you're closing on deals. I've been watching you for a long time. Tell us what brings you to the Best Ever Conference.
You know what? I saw Joe Fairless speak at the multifamily conference right before I did, and we just talked in the green room, had a lot of fun with him, and loved everything he did. He was just a normal guy, so yeah, awesome. I thought I'd come out.
And you guys got your booth here promoting your fund. So tell us quickly, for people that don't understand the difference between, or want to learn more about the difference between funds and syndications, just briefly, what is the difference?
So a good way to sum it up is when you sell a syndication, you sell the present. When you sell a fund, you sell the future. So that's probably the best way to sum it up. And with a syndication, it's like, hey, here's this deal that I have right now, and here's why this is a good idea. And there's pros and cons to that. And you know, you've done it both ways. I've done it both ways. But that's basically the present. So you're on the crunch, you're on the clock, and everything's kind of happening all at the same time, right? Whereas a fund is, you talk about the future because you may or may not have a deal targeted for the partnership. So you're more looking at it like, hey, we see this happening in the economy, and because of these things are probably going to happen, and because of that, here's the opportunity. So here's why you should participate. And selling a fund for a lot of people is hard because it's not like this building, right? But if you can learn how to sell a fund eventually, and obviously legally do it right and set it up properly, I honestly think you have tremendous potential.
Better option, no, for sure. Yeah. Now, you're based in Canada like we are, and I mean, maybe part-time or however you have, but you're originally from Canada.
Yeah.
What was the intrigue? What was the interest in U.S. real estate, particularly multifamily, that kind of draw you here? And that's basically all your business here now.
Yeah, well, you and I both know this. As Canadians, you can either buy a unit per unit here, or you can buy per parking spot in Canada, right? Basically the same price. So, you know, the price point is a really attractive point. But for me, I was also spoiled. When I started in the business in 07, 08, the firm I worked with was we're a Canadian firm, we were buying American multifamily assets. So for me, I always thought it was normal to pay price per door what this was compared to Canada. Every time I looked in Canada, I'd love to buy in Calgary and Toronto and Vancouver, but I look at the price per door. Like I said, you could either renovate your kitchen in Toronto or you can buy an apartment in the US, right? So for me, it was a no-brainer.
Got it. Makes sense. Now, switching the conversation, at this conference, we're hearing a lot of doom and gloom. We're hearing a lot of cautious about where the economy is, forecasts about a recession. Inflation is still high. We had Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, talking about how they're going to continue raising rates. As a fund manager, as a fiduciary of your investors, as you making that decision as far as what to invest in, what is your guys' current decision? Are you sitting on the sideline? Are you looking for deals? Are you being opportunistic? What is the strategy in this current market?
So I'll sum it up in one comment that one of my mentors once told me. He says, you need to buy fear and sell greed. And if you remember that, you're always in a good place. So there's a lot more people getting fearful right now, and we're getting this crisis of confidence that I like to call it. And I, as a disciplined investor, when you have your box, and I know you've got your format, when you follow your criteria and you're not stretching beyond that, you're good. So I just solve for the result, and whether interest rates are 8%, 18%, or 2%, I just solve for that result. And you know, I'm always opportunistic. I mean, people are saying, oh, they're on the sidelines. I say, look, fair enough, you can be on the sideline, but if you think prices are going to be X in a year or 2 years and they're going to be 20, 30, 40% less, why not negotiate for those prices today? And if you can get the present value of those cash flows today, as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 years to see that discount in the market, that's where you're going to create that exponential return for your investors. So I'm super bullish. I'm very cautious. I've been right up until the mania when we were talking last year when we saw each other at the Best Ever Conference. It was just the beginning of the rate increases, and that was the first hike that they just had. And you and I are both looking at each other like there's like going to be like another 5 or 6 of these. And sure enough, here we are.
Yes, great. Now, again, switching the conversation, like I mentioned, I've been watching you for a long time. You create a lot of educational content. You have a lot of great webinars. Why don't you tell our audience what's the best way to connect with you, maybe to join one of your educational webinar summits that you have going?
Sure, yeah. So the number one skill set for anybody in this business right now, if you want to be active, is learning how to raise capital. Because like I said, in the next 2 years, you're going to have a massive crisis in confidence. Like it's going to be, everyone knows how to underwrite, or assuming you know how to underwrite, we all have the same calculators. Oh, this is a great deal. Okay, great. But how do you get that equity? How do you get the cash in the door, right? So capital raising, I think, is going to be the number one skill set that's going to be, if you're in the business or want to be in the business, learning that skill set well for yourself or your team is going to be number one. And we do teach a fair bit of that. So marsandrose.com, my website's the best place. And if people want to learn about it, there's free resources, there's paid resources, and it's
okay. Spell it out if you don't mind, just for people that have short attention span.
MARCINDROZDZ for the Americans, DROZDZ for the Canadians.
Awesome. Thanks
you,
so much, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.